Okay, we're going to get some more practice here with if statements and Boolean expressions and all that stuff. And I've got some start code which I'll put in the description of the video. So we're going to use this template. So I'm going to go to my student account and we're just going to call it Map Analyzer. And the main idea here is we're just going to have this map where we have different rows and columns. And we're going to check what type of tile we're on, whether it's like sand or hills or water or trees, that kind of stuff. Okay, so that copied the start code to my account. Now, you can often go code open with GitHub Desktop, but I've had a few students that sometimes the browser doesn't like this and won't do it properly. So another option is from GitHub Desktop, you can go File, Clone Repository, and then you can give it the URL. So we can just copy this URL or up here. So I'm just going to copy that. And in here we'll paste that. And then I'm going to choose my file here, which I think was on the F drive, CS10, and Map Analyzer is what I'll call it. Okay, so we clone it. All right, so like I said, this demo or this video is going to talk more about if statements. We did like equality, right? The triple equals. But we're going to learn more about like greater than, less than. Those are other comparison operators we can use. So don't worry about all of this code. A lot of it is kind of beyond what we're doing in the script.js and stuff. But if you go on to CS20, we'll learn more about that. For now, just focus on this solutions area here. And there are some global variables, row and column. Well, let's run the program first so you can actually see what it looks like. And then the code should make more sense. Okay, so here's our map analyzer. We're on level 1 right now, and it's this map right here. And this first level I've completed already, but as you move the mouse around, right, these are the rows, row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are the columns, column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3. So as you move your mouse, you can see, oh, right here I'm at row 7, column 2. Right? Here I'm at row 7, column 1. So the code that I wrote highlights these things and tells us what row and column we're at. Okay, and then you can switch levels, right? And each level has a different map, which means that we're going to have to change our if statements to be different so it highlights the right type of tile here. And that's kind of the idea. When I hover over this, it should say sand. This should say water. Okay, and I only have level 1 completed where it says sand and then water. Okay, so to accomplish that, if you go to solutions.js, this row and column are the variables that we can use to test, right? So this first level, I just do an if statement that says if column is less than or equal to 4, right? So we look here, right? Column is 4. If I'm less than or equal to 4, I'm going to print out sand. And then else, if it's not less than or equal to 4, then I'm going to output water. And as easy as that. So like I said, we had the equality operator we did before, right? Is it equal to, or the exclamation is not equal to. You can also do greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. You could just do less than. So for example, if I did less than 5, that would work as well. Right? Because less than 5 is 4. Right? And that's 5, so it's not less than 5, so it's going to be the water. So you could do it either way, right? Less than 5 or less than or equal to 4 would get you the same thing. Okay, let's look at level 2. Oh, and then this output element, this is just a variable that's storing the current tile element, which is just down here. Current tile, there's just those dashes in there. So we can just use that variable to update the page. Where am I? Right here. Okay, so set its inner HTML. And I just did that variable so we don't have to type out document.getElementById every time. You can just use that variable here. You'll also notice that I have here use a binary if statement. That's an if-else. So each level, there's instructions. Chained if statement is that if-else with as many else-ifs as you need. Binary, binary. And the reason for that is because I want to make sure that you're using the right type of comparison operators. We'll get to level 3. I'll show you there in a second. So level 2 says a chained if statement. And that's because if I go to level 2, actually, first of all, level 1, there's only sand or water. So it makes sense to be binary, right? It's either sand or it's water. There's 2 possibilities. It should be a binary if statement. Level 2, however, has hills, sand, or water. There's 3 possibilities, so I should set up a chained selection statement like this. If something is true, do this. Else, if something else is true, do this. Else, do this. Right? There should be the 3 different possibilities based on the 3 types of tiles on this level. Okay, so again, we can analyze here. I would analyze my columns, right? Because to be hills, I would be less than or equal to 2, or less than 3. So that would be the first thing, is hills. So I would simply go into here and say if column is less than or equal to 2, then I'm going to get rid of this thing here. Make sure you don't leave it at the bottom, because otherwise it'll change the initial to be that blank. I just have it here in each level just so you can copy and paste it easily. We want to put that into the if statement, and this was going to be hills. Okay, and then if that's not true, right, if column is not less than or equal to 2, well then I know it's not here, so I can check if it's less than or equal to 7. Right, it's not here, so maybe it's in this range here. So I'm going to go else if column is less than or equal to 7. And if that's true, I'm just going to copy this. We want to do sand. And then the else means that this isn't true and this isn't true, so it must be on the right side where there was water. Okay, so we'll save that. Go back to level 2, and now we've got sand, hills, and water. Yay, okay, awesome. Okay, so yeah, that first if statement checked in this area. If that's not true, I know it's not here, so I can check if it's less than 7 to see if it's this area. And if that's not true, it must be in here. Cool. Some people like to do this. They'll say, well, don't I have to check if column is greater than or equal to 3 and column is less than or equal to 7? And this will still work. Back to level 2. Sand, water, hills. It still works, but it's not necessary. The reason we don't have to check if column is greater than or equal to 3 is because in this else if, we know that this first if was false. So I know that this is not true, which means the column must be 3 or higher. So it's redundant, right? It's unnecessary to check that here. So if you do that, like, it'll still work, but it's less efficient. It makes your code messier and harder to read. Okay, so easier to just check it in that order. Okay, so that's level 2. Let's check out level 3. Okay, so level 3 is like identical to the last level, except instead of water, there's hills. So one easy thing we could do is say, okay, well, I'm just going to copy and paste all of this. Get rid of that. And hills, sand, and then this will be hills. And this should work great. Level 3, sand, hills, hills. Awesome. Okay. However, I put here, this should use a binary if statement. And this is a chained, right? It's not a binary. And the reason it should be binary, again, is because there are only 2 different types of tiles, sand and hills. Okay, so if something is true, do sand, else do hills. So let's start, I'm going to actually show 2 solutions to this. Let's do the sand first. Let's check for that. And sand is if I'm in between 3 and 7, which we just looked at, right? I said it was unnecessary here. But here we should do that. We should say, hey, if column is greater than or equal to 3 and, right, remember that double ampersand is and, different than or, right? Or was this. We want and, because we want it to be greater than and less than. It has to be constrained by both. Less than or equal to 7 it was. Then I'm going to say sand, and I'm just going to change this to an else. It's going to be hills. And then we can get rid of this. Okay, so now it's a binary, if else, right? If this is true, it's sand, else it's hills. So if I'm in between 3 and 7, level 3, sand, hills, yeah, looks good. Okay, so it's working. Okay, so that's a better way to do it, right? Because there's only 2 possibilities. Otherwise, we were repeating the hills here and here, right? And you shouldn't repeat your code like that. We can just do it simpler in this binary if statement. The other thing I want to show you is we could have, instead of doing this and, right, checking if I'm in between these values, we could have actually checked for hills first. We could have checked, hey, am I less than or equal to 2? Right? Am I on the left side or am I on the right side? Right? So less than or equal to 2 or greater than or equal to 8. So let's change that. Let's see if I'm less than or equal to 2 and greater than or equal to 8 will be hills. And if that's not true, then I must be in the middle. Right? I'm not less than or equal to 2. Oh, I need to change this to an or. Right? So if I did an and, right, this is impossible. Right? And means that this has to be true, and at the same time, this has to be true. Well, how can you get a number that's less than or equal to 2 and greater than or equal to 8 at the same time? Right? This will never be true, and it'll always say sand. Level 3, it'll always say sand, or sands in this case. Okay, so that does not work. We need to make sure that this is an or. Am I on the left side, or am I on the right side? If either of those are true, it'll say hills. Otherwise, it'll say sand. And now, hopefully, sand, hills, that works too. Okay, so like I said, this is good practice for your if statements here. Please pay close attention to whether you need to do a binary or a chained based on the number of types of tiles that there are, and the difference between or and, the chain selection statements, the binary. Yeah, this should be awesome practice for you. The next couple of levels 4, 5, and 6, are very similar to levels 1, 2, and 3. The only difference is instead of columns, you're using rows, right? Because here I want to check, is my row less than or equal to 1? Or is it greater than or equal to 6? That kind of stuff, right? And then after that, they vary a little bit. Kind of, oh, this is interesting, and ooh, interesting, right? Get some more complex things here. 4 things in there. Get different quadrants. Maybe there's, oh yeah, just like this, do a binary. So anyway, it's really good practice for your Boolean logic, doing your if statements. So get all these levels done. If you need help, make sure you ask me. And yeah, that'll be kind of, I'll let you guys do the rest of the levels, okay, as a check your understanding for good practice on your if statements. Okay, hope that made sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.